Good afternoon and welcome to Heartland Poker Tour's Soaring Eagle final table, where our 9 players have just sat down and are ready to kick off the action.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello everyone and welcome to the HPT. I'm James Larson, joined by professional poker player Mr. Robert Williamson III. Once again, Robbie, the HPT back on the road. This week it's Mount Pleasant, Michigan at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. A very familiar property for us. We've been coming here since 2008. This is our 12th time here, and once again, a huge prize pool.
Tell you what, the players have come out in droves to try to win all this prize money, and the Chippewa tribe that owns the Soaring Eagle Resort here has treated me like gold. James, it made me feel like I'm right at home.
We've given out over $7 million since 2008, and we'll continue to do that here tonight on the HPT. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and meet our players, take a look at the chip counts, but most importantly, take a peek at that prize pool. And it is a whole lot of cash, Robbie, a total prize pool of just over $724,000. And look at that, up top, $166,565. All the players guaranteed ninth place money. That's $14,484.
And James, up top on our chip leaderboard right now, Chris Moon over $4 million in chips. Vinny Ho right behind him, though. John, Alexander, and Scott rounding up the top 5.
Well, Robert, the HPT first visited Soaring Eagle back in 2008, and since then, we've awarded over $7 million in main event prize pool money, and we're going to do more of that right here tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, these Chippewas sure know how to give away the cash.
Action now is folded around to the 3-seat of Patrick. He's going to fold. Now over to Chris Moon. He's our chip leader. Watch out for this guy. He's one of those up-and-comers, one of these young guys that's pretty much got the game figured out.
Yeah, well, he does play pretty aggressive and has a vivid imagination, we'll say.
Now action over to the button, and Alexander looks down at ace-10 suited in diamonds. Alexander comes to this final table with just $1.45 million in chips, so he's looking to get a double up here. He's going to raise up to $75,000.
I don't blame him. I like any ace late position, especially one with a big kicker like the 10.
And we got a fold now by John, so action over to the nail tech. His name is Vinny. He looks down at 8 deuce, suited in clubs. He's a local favorite here. The whole staff knows him. He's always in the poker room here, and he likes to have a good time at the final table, and I got a feeling he's going to be some entertainment for us tonight, and he's got a whole lot of chips on top of that.
Never hurts to have a lot of chips when you want to play a really aggressive style, James.
Well, he's in the big blind. He's going to defend. As a matter of fact, he's going to re-raise now a 3-bet to $250,000.
Well, he's definitely got a vivid imagination. I thought that was the other player was talking about. It looks like it's also Vinny.
And Alexander is going to make the call. And the flop is Jack 8-5, couple of diamonds.
Interesting flop. Vinny flops middle pair, but Alexander flops the nut flush draw and 2 overcards to Vinny's pair of 8s.
And right now, Vinny's thinking, hey, maybe I could eliminate a player here in the first hand of the night. He's got a quest to be our next HPT champion and go home with the title and the cash. It's a check by Vinny. Now Alexander bets $340,000. Vinny feeling very confident here early on. He's gambled a lot this week. He has been in full gamble mode, and I think we're going to see that continuing tonight. And now he's going to raise all in.
Well, this was a read raise. Vinny's just saying, I don't believe Alexander. Alexander's got a call, though. He's got a flush draw and at least 1 overcard to the board.
And Vinny does have the best of it right now. They're going to flip over their cards. Vinny's going to see he's ahead, but he's got to fade a whole lot of action. Any diamond, any ace, running cards for a straight, any 10. Turn card now is the 4 of spades. So far, things are looking good for Vinny.
Sure are. I'll tell you what, Alexander's got to have a diamond, an ace, or a 10, or he's going to be eliminated.
Could be a quick night here on the HPT for Alexander if his hand doesn't improve. And the river card, look at that.
The table said it all. Didn't you hear the whole table went, ooh. Alexander gets there and gets that double up.
The 7 of diamonds for Alexander Ahmed. He's from St. Clair Shores, Michigan. He's a professional poker player. He's not going anywhere as he doubles up on the first hand of the night. Welcome back to the HPT. I'm James Larson, joined by Robert Williamson III. This week, we broadcast from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, right here at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. I love this property. I love the rooms, but selfishly, I love the 15 golf courses that surround this area.
I'll tell you what, I haven't even left the casino yet. James, there's so much to do here. The restaurants are great, and they have live music almost every night.
It's time for us to get back to the poker action because our goal is to crown that new HPT champion. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chip counts. Chris still leading the pack. It's very early on at tonight's final table. Right behind him, though, Alexander and John. But the story so far, and I know it's early, but Vinny's going the wrong way fast, my friend.
Hey, you're taking all my lines. I'll tell you what, Vinny has fell over $2 million and gone from second place down to fourth. And Alexander has moved all the way up to second place behind Chris Moon.
All right, the action continues here on the 1 seat. That is Rod. Looks down at Queen 8. A-Rod folding his hand real quickly. Now over to Josh. He gets out of the way. Now we go over to Patrick. Looks down at 8-7. He says goodbye to those cards. And now over to the chip leader. This Chris Moon, I really expect a lot out of this guy tonight. He knows the game real well. He's an actual poker instructor. He's one of these young guys that just has the game figured out at an early age. It's scary, Robert.
It really is. I'll tell you what was scary was having to play against this guy this week. Unfortunately, I drew his table. He was a tough player.
Yeah, Chris Moon is an instructor at Tournament Poker Edge. It's a poker training site that specializes in tournament formats. Action now folded around to the 6th seat. That's Johnny. He's on the button. He started with $2.26 million, and he's looking like he might do a raise here from the button. Never a bad idea.
I'll tell you what, position. If you had to know anything about poker, position's very important.
Now action over to Vinny in the small blind. He looks down at King Trey, and he's played every hand so far, but he's not going to play this one.
Vinny folded even a suited hand.
And now action over to the big blind. That is Scott Sisler. We'll see if he defends. He's 48 years old. He's a mortgage broker. Lives in Detroit, Michigan. His wife Elizabeth is in the audience. He's got over $139,000 in career earnings, and he's going to make the call. So we go heads up. Johnny Scott, the computer programmer, against a mortgage broker. The flop is ace for Trey. It's a rainbow. Scott will be first. He got the best of it.
Certainly he did. Matter of fact, he's the only one that caught any piece of this. Scott flop top pair in a straight draw. John's got what I commonly call air.
Yeah, a whole lot of air going there, but still can
continuation bet.
Nothing wrong with that, so it goes check, and I'll bet him $105,000. Scott's going to quickly make this call. He loves his situation that he's in. By the way, up top, Robert, $166,565. So every play here, every hand, every card, very calculated because this is very important tonight's action here on the HPT. Jack of clubs on the turn.
You know, once I've gone ahead and checked, I'd have to check again if I'm Scott and John checks behind him. I don't blame John.
Check, and now we go to the river. It's the queen of diamonds. So once again, first act is Scott. This time he is reaching for chips as he smiles a little bit. And no matter what he bets here, it's probably going to be a very easy fold for John. The bet is $185,000, and John's going to put those cards immediately in the muck. Scott Sisler, he's going to go ahead and take down this pot. He finished 4th place in WSOP event number 62 last year, so not so bad. I've talked to a lot of players this week. They keep saying, James, this could be my summer saver. I got beat up in the World Series. And, you know, it's no fun to go out there and lose a bunch of money.
It sure isn't. I haven't had many of those summers, but I'll tell you what, I have plenty of friends that have.
But here on the HPT, we're giving away some cash to try to save those summers. We had a total prize pool of just over $724,000 this week on the HPT, and that's just from coming here so many years. You know, we first visited this property back in 2008, and since then, I talked about it at the top of the show, we've awarded over $7 million in main event prize pool money.
Then he looks down at the ace-9 offsuit, James. That's like 2 aces to most people. I mean, he's got to be raising this hand.
You know, Vinny looks like a guy I'd like to just go sit in the pits with and maybe play some blackjack or baccarat, order a couple of drinks. This guy likes to gamble. He's going to raise it up to $80,000 with his ace-9. Fold it around now to the 1 seat of Rod. He's on the button, looks down at King-9. He's going to fold his hand. Action now over to the big blind. That's Patrick. Looks down at Queen-10.
a very defendable blind in this situation, especially, James, because he's playing against a loose player that's playing a lot of hands, a wide variety.
And Patrick is going to make the call.
Of
He is a retired middle school art teacher, just $20,000 in lifetime earnings, so he's got to be very excited about this final table tonight. The flop is ace, jack, 8, couple of spades.
I'll tell you what, kind of a dangerous flop here. Vinny flopping top pair, but Patrick, a double gut straight draw. But with that ever-present ace out there, I don't think I'd lead at this. I might check raise. I might check fold, but I don't think I would lead out at this, and Patrick decides to check wisely, I believe.
Vinny is reaching for chips. Talked about this earlier. He owns a nail salon, lives in Midland, Michigan. Just $720 invested in this main event. He's going to bet $135,000. Patrick thinking about the situation here, and I think he's going to make this call, Robert.
Yeah, you know, the only problem is Patrick doesn't have a lot of chips left. He started out as one of our smallest stacks here. This was a very, very important pot for him.
Turn card now is the 5 of diamonds, so things are getting short here for Patrick. He's either got to make a move or decide to get into another hand, Robert.
Yeah, I think at this point he might have crossed the point of no return. He's got too much of his stack size. I don't blame him. I probably would have pushed there myself. I would have preferred a check raise on the flop instead. But he's not going to like what he sees here.
And he's on a draw for his tournament life. As you can see, Vinny is in the lead.
Only a 9 or a king can save Patrick from being our 9th place finisher.
And we go to the river card. It's the Tray of Hearts. It's not going to do it. Patrick is eliminated. Vinny wins the hand, but not for nothing. Patrick going to go home with a nice little payday, $14,484. It's a great day for him here on the HPT.
And Vinny needed to win a pot, so, you know, that increased his chip stack over 500,000 chips.
8 players remain, and when we come back, we'll have more exciting final table coverage. You're watching the HPT.
Welcome back to Heartland Poker Tour's Soaring Eagle final table, where our 8 players are ready to battle it out for the first prize of $166,000. But before we head back to the table, let's check out the current chip count.
Up top still, Chris Moon behind him, Alexander. We've done a little flip-flop here with Vinny and John.
I'll tell you what, that's the storyline right now. Vinny on the rise, making a little comeback. John slipping down just a little bit, but still in 3rd and 4th place.
Blinds are 20,000, 40,000 with a 5K ante. So great to be back here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. You know, the Chippewas, not too far away from here. Central Michigan University, my friend.
I'll tell you what, I've rooted for the fighting Chippewas many a time, my friend.
All right, John wakes up with pocket 7s. He's going to raise it up to 80,000. Now over to Vinny. Clicks down at Jack 6. He is going to fold that hand.
I call the 2 7s my birthday hand. Do you know why?
I don't know why.
Well, because I was born on the 7th.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You are one of these. I don't want to play dice with you. You're 7-11, right? Maybe I do want to play
11-7.
dice with you.
That's right.
Scott folds, and now action over to Kyle. He's got ace king, and it's time to get that short stack right in the middle, Robert.
I'll tell you what, you want to see all 5 cards when you have ace king, and especially when you have a short stack.
We've got a fold from seats 1 and 2. Now we are over to Chris Moon. Our chip leader looks down at ace 10. We'll see if he decides to get involved in this pot. You know, he's got a raise and now an all-in in front of him, so he may fold this, Robert.
Yeah, I think even though I'm sitting that deep, he's definitely deep enough to make this call, and he does. I still think I'd probably go ahead and fold this because you're facing not just a raise, you're facing a re-raise also.
All right, action now. Back to John, the original raiser. I think he likes the situation he's in, probably in his mind thinking he's probably against 2 overs, just like he is with ace-king. He's going up ahead right now. He's got his pocket 7s going up against a whole lot of overcards. Flop now is 10-9 deuce, couple of clubs. And speaking of overcards, Chris hit one of them.
I guess Chris knew better than me. Flop top pair, top kicker.
Action is on Chris Moon from Detroit, Michigan, just 26 years old.
I'll tell you what, with this kind of a flop, James, you can't let any free cards come off there. Coordinated board, 2 straight cards, 2 flush cards. Chris is going to accurately lead at this pot.
The bet is $250,000. Now over to John, and look at this. He's going to put out raising chips. We're going to go to $600,000. Kyle's all in. He's just watching from the side. And now action over to Chris, and Chris is going to fold. Chris is going to fold the hand. And we're going to flip over the cards, and Kyle's going to say, all right, a little bit of a free roll here. John thinking the same thing because they were both beat. The turn card now is the 5 of spades.
And only an ace or king can keep Kyle alive.
So now we go to the river card with a pot of over 1 million chips. We could lose another player here at this final table. And it's another 10, this time the 10 of spades. So John's going to win the hand. He's going to eliminate Kyle. And Kyle's going to go out in 8th place with $18,105. But so you saw Chris fold the best hand there. He didn't know it was the best hand, but we can obviously tell that he's a very disciplined player, and good poker players know when to throw away a hand, and sometimes they throw away a winning hand.
Sometimes it does happen, James. If you're not throwing away a winning hand every once in a while, you're probably not playing this game optimally.
So this time, Chris looks down at ace-jack, a little better than last time.
I do suspect we'll see an opening raise from Chris Moon here.
Chris talked about how Black Friday had such an impact on his life. So many of the young players. I remember it like it was yesterday as well, but he went to bed that night, and then he woke up, and 98% of his net worth was gone.
Yeah, it was a shocking time for everybody in the poker industry, James.
We were on our way to Indiana to do an HPT event. I looked at my BlackBerry at the time. The boss called and said, "You're not going to believe it." I looked down, and of course, we all know what happened on Black Friday, and not something I really want to continue to talk about, to be perfectly honest with you.
I was caught in Europe in that whole fray.
Action now on Vinny, the nail tech from Midland, Michigan.
Oh, he's back to playing a suited hand, Queen 10 suited.
Told me he can do up to 12 manicures a day, this guy. Very talented, Vinny.
Yes.
We had a fun time in his interview. He was joking around a lot, and you can just tell he's a great guy to have at the poker table. The flop is ace, queen, 5. It's a rainbow.
Well, top pair for Chris, second pair for Vinny. This usually spells trouble for the guy flopping the second pair.
Vinny's going to check over to Chris. Chris, very calculated with all of his decisions. Very consistent. I got a feeling this guy's going to go real deep in tonight's final table.
He's a great player. He really is. Unfortunately, he taught me this week just how really solid he does play.
Good to see you playing at this HPT main event. Did you have fun playing, Robert?
Oh, wow. This is such a great property. The dealers were awesome. I mean, everything about this, the whole experience has been wonderful.
Turn card is the 4 of hearts, and I talked about this before too, Robert. We've been coming here for years. All these people are like family to us, these dealers, the floor people. It's great to be back here at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. So Vinny checks. Now action over to Chris.
Well, I said everything was great this week, but one thing, I didn't make the final table, but at least I'm here with you calling it.
And practice makes perfect, my friend. You can visit our website at hptpoker.com and you can give it another shot. So the bet is $225,000, and Vinny is going to quickly make the call. As you can see, he's got second best here, and that's a way to lose a lot of chips, Robert.
It sure is. I'll tell you what, Vinny is on the non-believer school of thought, and I think if he gets fired at this third bullet, surely by now he'll believe Chris.
So Vinny is going to check over to Chris. And Chris is going to continue to fire. I like this. He's got 2 pair, aces and 4s.
Chris's kicker no longer plays. That's why he's betting a little more here, trying to chase off any other ace.
The bet is $325,000. Now, what's going through his mind? I check called all the way down. What's another $325,000?
Yeah.
Is that what he's thinking?
I think that is what's going through Vinny's mind. And he plays so many hands, it's hard for people to put him on hands. And he doesn't think that they got him. He's not going to like what he sees.
And Chris played that absolutely perfectly. He's going to take down this pot, and he's hoping to continue that the rest of the night here on the HPT and become our next champion. Welcome back to the HPT. It's James Larson and Robert Williamson III broadcasting from the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I want to say thank you to the entire staff and all of the players, the great players here in Michigan. What a prize pool. All the players came out, over $720,000 up for grabs.
Tell you what, first place up top, over $166,000.
Somebody's going to go home really happy after tonight's final table. Let's go ahead and take a look at those chip leaders. Up top still is Chris Moon, and then we've got Alexander, Vinny, and John, but the deck has shuffled a little bit between second, third, and fourth place.
It sure has. Chris has increased his lead. John has managed to slip into second place, and Vinny's fell down to fourth place.
Now here in Mount Pleasant, Robert, the median family income is $43,927. I got that off the World Wide Web. Well, tonight's winner is going to go home with $166,565. It would take you 3 or 4 years to make that kind of money.
So you're saying if I got fourth place tonight, I get to take the rest of the year off?
Pretty much, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, Robert, a huge prize pool this week, just over $724,000. Action is now folded around to the small blind of Josh, and look at this, Robert. He wakes up with pocket kings.
Tell you what, it never hurts to wake up with a big pocket pair.
So now he's just contemplating how much to raise here. He's been playing since he was 21 years old. He got a black belt in karate when he was just 13 years old. It took him 7 years to get the black belt, and he's going to raise to $100,000. Now action over to his best friend, Chris, now in the 4 seat. We talked about this before. These guys are good buddies.
Yeah, they're both really good players as well, so that makes this even trickier.
And Chris is going to make the call, defending from the big blind. But how cool is this? You go to these events with your friends, and you both end up at the final table.
It's running good. Well, I said running good until I see this flop. Josh still with the overpair to the board, but Chris flops middle pair. Could eke off a little bit of money on this hand.
Yeah, small blind, big blind, so the player could have anything here, and Josh reaching for chips, and he's going to bet $115,000. Chris probably going to make this call and see another street.
And I couldn't blame him. Once you decide to see the flop and then you catch a piece of it, you got to continue forward.
Now, these guys have been playing cards against each other for years, so you would think they probably know each other's tells by now. Wouldn't you think so, Robert?
Yeah, but I think even though you know your friends, the way they play very well, also, it's can be a little bit confusing because you put up false tells because you know your friend knows how you play.
Now the deuce of spades.
That actually is a really good card for Josh's hand. Gives him a flush draw, still an overpair to the board.
And he's going to make a bet of $230,000. Now, I told you these guys are good buddies and all, but I don't think either one wants to lose to the other person. So I don't think you're going to see any nice guy scenarios here. And Chris is going to fold, and Josh is going to win the hand.
I think a lot of other players would have given Josh more of their chips. Chris knew when he led twice into him that Josh had the best hand and makes the correct fold.
Well, Robert, I talked to Chris before this final table, and he told me his greatest strength is being able to read players, and he did right there on that hand.
He sure did. He made a great read.
It's crazy that these young guys can play poker like this. I wish I knew half as much as these guys did when I was 26 years old.
Well, what's crazy is I'm one of the old guys now. I was always the young guy.
Over to Vinny now. He's going to raise it up to $80,000 with a pretty little hand, the Jack-10 of hearts. Scott's going to get out of the way. Now over to Rod in the 1 seat. Not much happening for Rod early on, but sometimes at these final tables, you want to just sit back and let the other players battle things out while you're waiting to catch that wave of cards.
Patience truly is a virtue.
Now action over to Chris in the small blind. He's going to release his hand. Now over to Alexander. We'll see if he defends. Looks down at King Trey, suited in clubs.
And against the liberal raising range of Vinny, I think Alexander said, I got to make this call.
You know, in the bio sheet, Alexander, we asked him what his plans are for the cash, and all he put in there was first place. So he's not even thinking about what he's going to buy. All he knows is he wants to be our next champion. The flop is 8-6-4, a couple of hearts.
Great flop for Vinny. 2 overcards to this board still and a flush draw. Alexander kind of whiffed this flop.
Yeah, definitely a whiff for Alexander. He wisely checks over to Vinny. He's going to put out a bet of $100,000.
Even though Alexander whiffed this flop, he does have the best hand currently. I don't think he has a call coming here. But what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know?
Alexander makes the call.
Alexander does just that. He's going to hang around for another card here at least. And the turn card now, the 6 of clubs, and not much happening on that street, Robert.
Tell you what, that's what I call a hold'em card. Kind of defines the board. Doesn't really help many hands that are out there. If I'm Vinny, I might have taken another stab at that.
Both players check. We go to the river. It's the King of Diamonds.
Well, that's why I would have stabbed at it, because you don't want to give free cards. And now Alexander clearly has the best hand.
Boy, Alexander hung around all the way to the end. Now he's reaching for chips. He's going to make a bet. And Vinny's thinking, what happened here?
Alexander, 275,000.
Yeah, but Vinny doesn't have a call coming with just Jack high, so should be an easy fold. But the main part of this story is Vinny should have bet 4th Street and would have taken this pot down. Instead, he gave a free card, and now Alexander's dragging the chips.
In the past several episodes, we've introduced you to all of the players who final tabled the Card Player Cruise main event. There's only one player left for you to meet, and his name is Don Otto.
Don Otto, Prescott Valley, Arizona. I had a couple small cashes, nothing this big. Been playing since I was in the service. With the money, I'll probably buy something for my new Corvette, so we're probably going to do something with that. Card Player Cruises puts on an awesome event. It's a lot of fun, good event, great people.
You too could join us for an exciting poker cruise aboard a luxury ocean liner. Card Player Cruises offers the most poker action, most limits, and the best tournaments at sea. And the poker is just the beginning. It's truly unbelievable how much there is to do on these ships. For all the details, including a list of upcoming cruises and prices, visit www.cardplayercruises.com. More poker action after these messages.
Welcome back to Heartland Poker Tour Soaring Eagle Final Table, where our 7 players are ready to battle it out for the bracelet and the title. But before we continue, let's check out the current chip count.
Same old story, Chris, Alex, and John. The real story, though, is Rod. He needs to do something. Who is this Rod guy?
I'll tell you what, he hasn't played too many hands here tonight, but he's going to have to soon. Sitting on a very short stack, he's going to have to make his move.
We see John raise it up to 100,000 with his ace-6 of hearts. Action over to Scott, and once again looks down at 9 tray. Still nothing for Rod there in the 1 seat. Just nothing going. He shakes his head. Now over to Josh. Real quiet, reserved. Haven't seen a whole lot out of him. And now over to his best friend here. Chris, the chip leader, looks down at Queen 10. Chris is in the big blind.
Yep, Queen 10. You know, this is one of those iffy. Sometimes you defend with it, sometimes you don't. You don't ever want him to be able to put you on hands. Chris does decide to make the defend call.
Chris is one of these guys that just spends a lot of time on his game. He charts everything, analyzes it, and that's what you have to do to really compete at the next level, don't you, Robert?
Yeah, you have to really put a lot of your heart and soul and your time into poker to get to the next level, that's for sure.
So Queen 7-4, Chris hits a queen on the flop. Not a whole lot there for John.
Yeah, but the old continuation bet, you know, this is probably the most overused play in poker. I'm calling it right here, right now, the continuation bet.
And John does just that. And we talked about Chris's ability to read his opponent, so maybe a raise here and just a call.
Just a call. Chris doesn't have a big kicker, doesn't want to play a big pot out of position.
Turn card now, the 9 of spades.
I think we'll see the action similar to that last street. Probably a check from Chris. But John might slow down and take a free card as well. Well, John says, I wet my thumb and here I come. He decides to bet at this.
John's going to bet out 200,000. Just trying to steal this thing, but little does he know, Chris caught a piece of this on the flop.
Yeah, not only that, that's not big enough bet to get John to lay it down. Just didn't bet enough there. If he bets 350, 400, maybe he gets Chris to make a crying fold there.
Pretty easy call there for Chris, and now the river card is the ace of clubs. Look at this. It's gin for John.
Yeah, well, Chris is not going to like that card. It's a scare card.
John checks as well.
And wow, John has the best hand and doesn't value bet the river. Wow.
So it goes check, check. Chris is going to realize he was ahead the entire way. Ace of clubs comes on the river. The winner of the hand is John S. Well, Robbie, John's going to win, but he played that hand a little weird.
What do you mean? Just because he bluffed on the flop, bluffed on the turn, and then when his hand actually got there, he didn't bet the river?
Maybe he knows something that we don't know. Action continues here from the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort right here in beautiful Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I'm James Larson alongside Robert Williamson III. This is the 12th time the HPT has been here at Soaring Eagle, and only once before this was to turn out bigger, and that was back in 2011 where we had 545 players. So Robert, thanks to all our players for making this just an awesome prize pool this week.
Absolutely. And you know what? Thanks to Soaring Eagle, because they're the ones that attract all these players, including myself and you.
Action folded around now to the button. That's Chris Moon, and he looks down at Pocket Kings.
You know, the great part about this for Chris is he's opened up his playing range. He's going to get paid off more than likely on these bigger hands, because when you start playing more hands, your opponents just can't figure you to have a big hand every time, James.
And he's so hard to read. He's like a robot. He took the exact same amount of time to look at those Pocket Kings. It could have been 7 deuce. Everything is the same. He keeps his routine going, so it's hard to figure this guy out.
It really is. Betting patterns and his expressions as well.
So Alexander makes the call in the small with the ace-queen, and now over to John in the big blind.
I don't know what John's thinking about here, but I think he's making a very liberal big blind defense with 8-4 offsuit.
I think our graphics are right here. That is 8-4. He makes the call from the big blind. And look at this, Robert. The flop is ace-king Trey.
Wow, what a great flop for Chris and a horrible flop for Alexander, but he thinks, even worse, that this is a great flop for him. Could be expensive for Alexander.
It goes check, check, and now action over to Chris. He's going to make a continuation bet to almost make it look like a bluff.
Yes, he did indeed, 175,000. Ooh, such a smallish bet, just inviting a raise.
Alexander thinking, this is perfect.
Alexander in the 5
Oh, he's just going to make the call. He makes the call. John now can finally get out of the way. Let's get the 8-4 graphic out of here. You can Hollywood it a little bit. Let's give him a little bit of TV time. You gave it your best, John. Let's get those in the middle. Heads up now. The ace-queen, the kings. Chris flopped a set, though. This could be a disaster for Alexander.
Oh, wow. Speaking of disasters, now Alexander has 2 pair.
And now look at this. The check. Probably a big check raise here if he can get a bet out of Chris.
And I believe he will.
Boy, this is playing out like a perfect story for Chris. You couldn't ask for anything better.
And good bet sizing as well. He bet 375. A suspicious looking bet, but not too big of a bet. That way, if somebody's got a weak ace, you still get paid off here.
Action over to Alexander. Just a call there, Robert. I was surprised at that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Alexander's losing a lot less chips than I would in this spot.
And now we go to the river card, 6 of clubs, so no improvement to Alexander. I think he sniffed something out here, Robert.
All I can think of is Alexander's either a lot smarter than me, or he's planning to spring the trap right here on the river.
And Chris has bet this every street, extracting as many chips as he possibly can from Alexander. Now, if he can make this fold, I'm going to give this guy props. And he just whispered to himself, it was a cooler.
Wow, this would be one of the biggest laydowns I've ever seen.
Unbelievable. Spidey senses. Well, going to make the call.
He did call it.
I'm impressed by Alexander's play there. He sniffed it out. He knew exactly what Chris had.
Yes, all except for one thing, James. You know, he did call the river bet. What do they say? Curiosity killed the cat?
Well, things are heating up here on the HPT, coming to you from the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. And when we come back, we'll have more exciting final table action. Welcome back to the HPT. I'm James Larson, joined by Robert Williamson III. This week, we're in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, here at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Robbie, only 7 players remain.
I'll tell you what, Chris Moon has put on a clinic. He's just slowly been gnawing at the other players' chip stacks.
Your champion tonight will go home with almost $167,000. Let's head back to the felt. Nothing new up top. Chris Moon still leading it. John in second, but Scott finally cracking the top 3.
He sure is, James. Scott is on the rise, had a great round. I'll tell you what, Alexander's gone from second down to 5th. He's got to get his act together here quick.
A lot of money on the line, by the way, Robert. Up top, $166,565. I always love when our first place is 6 figures and second place, because second place going home with just under $102,000. Third place is $67,495. Right now, all the players are guaranteed at least $22,000 for going out in 7th place. Alexander on the button, looks down at King 7. He's going to raise to $120,000. And look at this. Johnny in the small blind wakes up with pocket rockets. The first time we've seen aces here on this final table tonight.
You know what's beautiful about that spot? Looks like that Alexander might have made a button raise, like a steal there. You can make a re-raise, but John decides just to call.
Just very smoothly, very quietly makes the call with his pocket aces. So Vinny is going to get out of the way. So we go heads up now, the button and the small blind. And look at John. He's smiling a little bit. I would be too if I had pocket aces. And the flop, Robert, is 10-8 deuce, rainbow.
Oh, a nice disjointed flop for those two aces of John.
And now John's going to lead out here. He bets 115,000.
Yeah, I don't understand that lead out, but looks like Alexander's going to try to float him all the same. Because John has played his hand pretty confusingly.
Alexander makes the call. John, we talked about it before, is a computer programmer. Now we go to the turn card. It's another 10, this time the 10 of diamonds.
Well, that ought to slow John down. See, now the top pair paired, Alexander could easily be in that hand range.
So John going to check over to Alexander. The hand's playing a little differently than we thought the way pocket aces would play.
It definitely is. We're seeing air turned into a bluff on the turn by Alexander.
That's 240,000 now. John could just get this hand over with right here, but he's thinking, I want more chips out of my opponent. I'm going to simply make this call, and we're going to go to the river.
The reason why he didn't raise there, James, is he can only get called by a better hand.
The river card is the 9 of clubs, so a whole lot of nothing for Alexander.
If I'm John here, I prefer a check call from him. And he didn't listen to me.
So John is going to throw out 6 of those chips that have the Michigan Wolverine colors on them for a bet of 600,000.
Yeah, I don't know what Alexander's thinking about here because he has nothing. But you know what? Sometimes you got to give a little bit of hesitation just so your opponent won't just fire bets out at you.
Not to mention this is a national TV show, Robert. He wants a little bit of TV time, and I can't blame him. Now, if you're watching this and you think you have what it takes to play at this nationally televised final table, why not give it a shot? Check out our webpage at www.hptpoker.com. It's James Larson, Robert Williamson III. Blinds are 25,000, 50,000 with a 5K ante. 7 players remain here at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort in beautiful Mount Pleasant, Michigan. First time we visited this property was in 2008, and since then we've given out over $7 million in main event prize pool money. Tonight, up top, $166,565. Action is folded around to Chris Moon on the button, looks down at 6-4. Even with a bad hand, he takes his time. He's going to fold now over to Alexander, who's just been getting beat up as of late.
I'll tell you what, he sure has. And I'll tell you what, he says, we're not gonna take it.
You're not going to push me around anymore. I'm getting them all in the middle. Ouch. Pocket kings. Just like that. Just like that, he runs them into pocket kings.
Yep, sometimes timing is everything. Alexander's defense, he only had 16 big blinds, so not a bad opportunity to try to steal there, but unfortunately, he got his hand caught in the cookie jar this time.
7 Trey going up against pocket kings for his tournament life. He's absolutely dominated. King,
oh,
10,
look
10.
At this flop.
A full house flop for Johnny.
He's drawing dead.
He could catch a couple of 10s to possibly split this thing, but it's not looking good for him.
Sure wouldn't want to be here.
7 of spades on the turn, 8 of clubs on the river. That is going to do it. Alexander, just a bad turn of events for him. He's going to go out in 7th place with just over $22,000.
And John's going to take down a nice pot.
Well, you know, Robert, people usually think of casinos as an adult playground. Here at Soaring Eagle, it's very family-friendly. There's even an arcade for the kids. I saw you in there last night.
Well, I mean, sometimes the gambling's not going good. Yeah, take a break into the arcade.
I was just going to say, you left the Pai-Gow table to go play the arcade. Action now to Vinny. Wakes up with a real hand. Pocket jacks.
Vinny's got to love that. He started out playing a lot of hands. He was holding more hands than a manicurist.
No pun intended there, big guy.
But he has a good chance of getting paid off because of playing so many hands.
Vinny's going to raise to $125,000 now over to the small blind. There's that Rod guy we keep seeing. Is he really in the tournament?
Well, I saw his name on the sheet, but I haven't seen him play a hand yet.
And now over to Josh. And I think he set all in with his pocket deuces.
Well, they say deuces seldom loses.
And Vinny makes the immediate call, and Josh is about out of here. as he goes all in with his pocket deuces, dominated now by Vinny's pocket jacks.
Vinny, gotta love this spot. He's a 4-1 favorite here. Oh, he doesn't love that flop, though.
Boy, the buzzsaw comes out. Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Wow. I'm speechless, my friend.
I mean, very rarely when you have overpair to a pair, or you're drawing almost virtually dead on the flop.
He didn't flop a set. He flopped quads. Quad deuces for Josh Marvin. Keeps his tournament hopes alive. Goes to his rail, high fives. Unbelievable. Just bad luck for Vinny.
It sure was.
Buzzsaw, buzzsaw, buzzsaw. Now, the important thing for Vinny, don't go on tilt, bro. The tournament's not over. Don't go crazy.
Shake that off. Shake that off, Vinny.
Shake it off, Vinny.
Well, he's shaking it off all right. All in.
Yeah,
You know, but look, King Jack, I don't blame him.
Scott gets out of the way. And look at this. Who's this guy in the 1 seat? I got to look up my sheet. It's Rod Maxey. He started with $612,000. He's still hanging around.
How about that's what he was waiting for? He's waiting for Big Slick.
All right, Rod is going to play a hand. Somebody please call the Mount Pleasant Morning Sun. Rod is in the game. Ace King versus King Jack. So Vinny dominated once again here. Rod's thinking, I just want to play one more hand. Just let me play one more hand. I've had no TV time. The flop is 7-4 deuce, couple of spades.
Well, good flop for Rod, still in front. Vinny needing a jack or running spades.
Turn card is the 10. Rod is from Flint, Michigan. He's got over $100,000 in lifetime earnings, only $190 invested in this tournament. And the river card is the Tray of Hearts. So Rod Maxey, yes, he is in the tournament. He's going to hang around for a few more hands.
It's time to step away for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, only 6 players remain at this final table here at Heartland Poker Tour in beautiful Soaring Eagle, Michigan. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Heartland Poker Tour Soaring Eagle final table where 6 players are remaining. The next one eliminated will take home over $27,000. But before we head back to the table, let's check out the current chip count.
It's the same old song. Chris Moon leading the pack. John and Scott, Josh right behind him. But what's going on with Vinny?
I'll tell you what, this is, where's Vinny? It's what's happened to Vinny. Vinny lost 2 big pots in this last round, and he's left with only fumes now.
Action continues here on the HPT from Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort right here in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Up top tonight, your winner will go home as the champion and $166,565. Folded around to Scott, looks down at pocket fives, the old Sammy Hagar. A lot of the young kids don't know what that means. Well, Sammy Hagar was a rock and roll musician.
And he couldn't drive.
He couldn't drive 55. Pocket fives for Scott. He's going to raise to 105. Rod gets out of the way because Rod doesn't play a whole lot of hands. We got to stop picking on the poor guy. He just hasn't had any cards tonight. Over to Chris Moon. His apex is always the same. It never changes.
He's definitely a consistently constant, focused, and deliberate player.
And look at this. He's going to defend here with Queen 7. A little loosey-goosey, but he is in the big blind.
Yeah, but he does have a lot of chips, and he does make really good reads.
9-8 deuce, couple of spades. Now, the opponents also have to fear this guy a little bit. A, he's Yoda. B, you can't get a read on the guy. He's super tight / aggressive / all over the place. It's a tough read.
And he has a lot of chips. I mean, that covers a lot of fallacies as well. But so far, Chris has played great poker tonight.
And his last name is Moon, so he could be some Martian from outer space. The bet is $135,000. Chris probably going to fold here, Robert?
You know, unless he gets a read on Scott, absolutely. He didn't catch a piece of the flop. He'll probably fold this.
Doesn't look like he's folding or calling. It looks like a raise now.
Chris believes in his reads, and he relies on them. But the only thing I don't like is he didn't make a very big raise here. I think he needed to raise a little more if he's going to get Scott to fold.
You know, Scott is going to make the call. A pot of almost 1 million chips already as the other players watch as the turn card shows up the 5 of hearts.
Well, that card obviously really helps Scott's hand, but it does give Chris a gut shot straight draw.
Now we'll see if Chris leads out here. He's going to check.
I think when Chris got called on that check raise, He realizes he's done with this hand. Go on to the next one. He made a bad move at the wrong time or didn't bet quite enough.
And now Scott bets 400,000. Do you like that play right there?
You know, I do. He bet a little less than half the pot. It's screaming, call me, call me. But Chris A's not going to go for that. And Scott's going to take down a nice pot.
That's not something you see a whole lot here on tonight's final table. Chris giving somebody else chips.
Well, you know, sometimes when you get a big stack, you try to make a move on another player. He figured it out pretty quick and minimized his losses.
Well, that's all the time we have on tonight's program. Do me a favor and tune in next week as we will have the conclusion right here from Mount Pleasant, Michigan and the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. If you're watching this and you think you have what it takes to play right here on the national stage, why not give it a shot? Just check out our webpage at www.hptpoker.com. For Robert Williamson III, I'm James Larson, and we'll see you next time on the HPT.